Well, hello everyone, and this is really getting down to the nitty gritty now in the book of Revelation. We're going to see the destruction of Babylon today, and again, I can't emphasize enough from Revelation 12 on, and there's times within that, two times within the from Revelation 12 on, so far that it has said after this. That word metitauta that puts it all into sequential order, but this is some really quick sequential order now. After Satan's kicked out of heaven, boom, things are happening right and left. We're going to get into that today. If you look at this slide, if you could see it, we see Satan is kicked out of heaven, the abomination then that causes desolation in Matthew. The dragon attacks the woman, and that woman is Israel, not Mary. We're going to explain within the next chapter or so, or our next meeting, why I think it's Israel and not Mary. But we have the false prophet causes all the unsaved to worship the beast, the seven bowls of judgment, the battle of Armageddon, and the harlot or the anti-church, also called Babylon. Now, and we're going to talk about the destruction of Babylon today. But you need to understand these things. The army's coming from the east. Armageddon's getting ready to start. All this is happening, boom, 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 even within the same day or the same month, really quick. Now, in this chapter 17 and 18, we come across another idiom, and it's really the destruction of Babylon, and it shows the story of two cities, and it's the city of Babylon, the city of man, and Jerusalem, the city of God, and we've seen this all through the Bible, and of all the women in the book of Revelation, this woman gets more attention than any of the other women, and that is mentioned, and those idioms that are mentioned. Now, the two women, the one that is of God and the one that is of Babylon or is of Satan, in every dimension there is contrast. In Israel, in chapter 12, we see that her location's in heaven. The woman that is Babylon, the woman riding the beast, and that's going to be key as we go on, is upon many waters. In Israel, in chapter 12, mother of man-child. We find out that in chapter 17, the woman riding the beast, that woman is a mother of harlots. And Israel clothed by the sun, the woman purple, scarlet, gold. The identity identifies with sun, moon, and stars, and the other one reigns over kings. The enemy in chapter 12 is Israel. In chapter 12 is the dragon, and the woman riding the beast. Her enemy turns out to be the beast and 10 kings, and we're going to read about this. The relationship is with the woman Israel is hated by the world, and the woman riding the beast is caressed by the world, and the woman Israel sustained by heaven, and the woman riding the beast is sustained by the dragon, and Israel, the woman of Israel, is crowned of 12 stars, and the woman riding the beast, her headdress is a mystery, Babylon the Great, and status, and this is interesting, the woman Israel is widowed and divorced, and we're going to find out about that. The woman riding the beast says, I am no widow, and that's going to be very interesting. The woman Israel, their final location is the New Jerusalem, and the woman riding the beast is eternal darkness. So we see the full contrast here of them. Now let's get into a little bit. The woman, chapter 17, Revelation chapter 17. One of the angels who had the seven bowls came to me. Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters. With her, the kings of earth. And with this woman, the kings of earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wines of her adulteries. Now, many good scholars have many different opinions about Revelation 17 and 18. I'm going to make it as simple as possible, and you can kind of come up with stuff that you think, and that's fine. But what do we know for sure? Okay, this is what we know for sure. She is a harlot who sits on many waters. Let's see, the kings commit fornication with her. The people get drunk on the wine of her fornication. She is located in the wilderness. She is sits on a scarlet beast. She is dressed in a very luxurious way. See, she carries out a golden cup of abominations. She has a writing on her forehead. Key issue, she is drunk with the blood of the saints. And we know that she is called Babylon, but is it actually Babylon? We're going to take a look at that. She is the mother of harlots. And what that means when that says that, she's the mother of prostitutes. What does a prostitute offer you? A prostitute offers you something that she cannot give. And she offers you intimacy, and that's not part of the deal. And so here we are going to see this is a religious thing that she actually offers, and it's fake. She cannot give. And that's why she's called the harlot. Another thing, she sits on 7 hills, and she is a city. Okay? Verse 3, the angel carried me away in the spirit into the desert. Then there I saw a woman, sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names. It had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hands, filled with abominable things of the filth of her adulteries. This was the title written on her forehead: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes. Now, notice when it says this, when it says the mother of prostitutes, it is plural. So it is many religious concepts and ideas. She is the mother of them, okay? And the abominations of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bear testimony to Jesus. She's located in the wilderness. Israel was located, the woman in heaven, okay? Now she sits on a scarlet beast. Don't confuse the woman with the beast. She sits on this beast. What does that mean? That means at this time when she's sitting on the beast, she has control of the beast. So let's kind of break it down so we understand it. This woman, a false religion, has control over the Antichrist at this time. Now, eventually the beast's going to turn on her and kill her. And it's the beast of Revelation 13:1. It's the Antichrist. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and adorned in gold, precious stones, and pearls of a rich prostitute. Not a sexual act. We know it's a religious thing. Outward, she's very pretty to look at. And you got to remember, purple in John's day was the purple represented by the Roman government and its royalty. Scarlet is the color that has been adopted by the Vatican, and which may become interesting later on. And before we do, let me say there's some things going to point at the Catholic Church here, and I want to say to all my Catholic friends and even some family that are watching this, we don't mean this as the Catholic Church of the day. We meant what's left of the Catholic Church after the rapture, because they would have the power to do this because they are so strong. So you'll have to look at it in that way. Now she carries a golden cup full of abominations of her filthiness and her fornication. The golden cup represents the anti-church, a counterfeit church. Okay? On her forehead, we said written mystery, Babylon the Great. Here's the interesting thing. Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. I just want to say one thing about this, one more thing. In the actual Greek, you know how we write thing in all caps? We do it on our computers and stuff like that. This is actually written in all caps, which I think is very interesting in the Greek. Let me tell you. We think the abominations of the earth, and the abominations of the earth reference back to Nimrod in the early part of Genesis. She's drunk with the blood of the saints, the martyrs of Jesus. She loves to martyr. There is one organization that has murdered more Christians than any other emperors of Rome, anybody else that has done that, and that's the Roman Catholic Church. That's one of the reasons why I say we've got to look at this and take a look, because she gets drunk of the blood of the saints. Now let's read further, because the last part of verse 6, John says, when he saw this, the murder of the saints, I was greatly astonished. And the angel says to John, why are you astonished? I will explain the mystery of the woman and the beast she rides. Now this is the beast that he's talking about. Okay, the beast which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. Now, we'll talk about the 7 heads and 10 horns here in a minute. But what I do want you to talk, there's a picture of the beast, not to scale. It's just an old picture that I found and kind of showed that. But anyway, I want to talk for a minute just about the beast you saw once was. This is about the beast. Now and now is not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. I think what we're talking about here in a physical sense is the Antichrist. In a spiritual sense, I think this beast was thrown into the abyss. Perhaps he's the one who influences the Antichrist so greatly. But he was, and then he is not, and then he comes out of the abyss and goes to his final destruction. I don't know exactly, and no one does exactly what that is, but I do know this. It seems to imply something that happened in Genesis chapter 6. In Genesis chapter 6, it deals with the Bible where it says there was giants in the lands in those days, and they knew, the sons of God knew the daughters of men. And it has to do with that. And I think that's why he got tossed in the abyss. We teach on that on the book of Genesis, and I won't now, but it's a little strange. But how we figure out who this guy is, okay? And that's only, that's probably the biggest question here in the whole chapter. The 7 heads and 10 kings, we're going to explain that here in a minute. The inhabitants, let's read on. The inhabitants of the earth, whose name have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now is not, and yet to come. And there's that saying again about the same beast. And yet we know that beast in a physical sense is the Antichrist. But this is what the beast actually looks like: 7 heads, 10 horns, and then he goes on and he says, "This calls," in verse 9, "this calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits." Now, 7 mountains. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. When you see mountains, it can be quite obvious within the Old Testament, and times that it's used in the Old Testament, it means governments. And just like Daniel chapter 2 would lead us to that. So if we do that, we say 7 governments. Let's go on. There are 7 kings, 5 has fallen, one is, okay, the others have not come. 7 kings. One is, the others, and the other one has not come. Okay, let's take a look. 7 heads equals 7 mountains and 7 governments. And now let's go on. The beast who once was and is now not is that guy we just talked about from the abyss. Abyss is the 8th king. Okay? He belongs to the 7 and is going to his destruction. We know that the woman is represented by Babylon, a mysterious Babylon. She's the mother of harlots, the mother of false religions, and there's 3 major. We're going to get back to this thing in a minute about the 8th king, but there's 3 major views on who Babylon is in the physical sense. I think the mother of false religions, we could see that, but in a physical sense, one of the views is that it's the United States of America. This is based upon the American idea of how rich we are, which may or may not be true. Because that's a perception idea. Our perception is that we're rich. We see countries in the Middle East, Dubai, that's blowing us away per capita. So I think that's a little presumptuous on our thinking. Also, America has never drank the blood of the saints. Not yet. Now, Antifa and these organizations would like to do that, and we're seeing some of that now, but they haven't done it yet. Okay. Number 2, this actually could be the city of Babylon, and years ago this was thought to be maybe true because Saddam Hussein had started to rebuild it, but since Saddam is hanging around or whatever, now he's dead, and I don't think that could be. They would have to rebuild that city. We know where it's at. That's no problem. But Iraq would have to rebuild it. So that would have to happen there. The third one is that it's the Roman Catholic Church. Now, as we go through this, we find out that the woman sits on 7 hills. And around Rome, there's 7 hills: Palatine, Aventine, Salian, Esquiline, Viminal, Urinal, and Capitoline. Those are the 7 hills that are around Rome, and of course they're around the Vatican. I'm sure there's more, but I found 3 cities that sit on 7 hills. Rio de Janeiro, Cincinnati, and Rome. So if we did this, it'd be an easy choice to be Rome. And so we would see that. The old city of Babylon, or where Babylon is now, does not have 7 hills around it. So it would tend to lead us to believe that it is the old or the old Roman Catholic Church, not the one that's here, because I think there's many people that are in the Catholic Church that are saved, despite what some of the things the Catholic Church teaches. And But once the rapture comes or these types of things happen, that's going to change. And is going to ride the beast. Now, in these seven kings and seven heads, okay, we've already seen that these heads represent seven mountains or seven kings. Five had fallen, okay, and here's and they were five had fallen, one is and one's to come, okay. Now the five are the five that had already fallen in John's time were Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, are the Greeks, and in John's time, Rome. Then there's the future Rome, okay, and the beast being the eighth king. Now, verse 12 explains that there are 10 more kings, or 10 more horns. Okay, we've got 7 kings with 10 horns, 7 kings with 10 governments behind them. I think is what that would mean, and they parallel with the 10 toes of Daniel's image in Daniel chapter 2, and also with the kings of Daniel chapter 7. So we see these things correlate with the book of Daniel exactly, and it's it looks like the revived Roman Empire. And in John's days, these kings had not yet received their power. They haven't received their power today. It's reserved for the last days, and many people believed it is a federation of Europe that outlines the old Roman Empire, and it's headed by the beast who comes to power, and these 10 kings willingly give up their support to the Antichrist. Now he takes over 3 of these, so there's only 7 left. That's according to the book of Daniel, and he is the 8th one that comes along. And so we see these things, and so we have 5 has fallen. That's Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medes, and the Greeks. One that's Rome, and one is to come, and that's in the future, to clean out the last week of the book of Daniel. And so now let's go, the mystery of the woman and the beast. Let's go to verse 12 in the chapter. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom. See, they're going to come later on. But who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings with the beast. So they will have authority, but it'll be for a very short time, is what it's saying there. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. Now watch this. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them because he is Lord of lords and Kings of kings. Now, I want to stop right here. Remember I said all these things are happening? So all of these kings come together, give their power to the beast to fight the Lamb, the King of kings, Lord of lords. They're going to fight him. The army of 200 million is coming. All the world is coming thinking they're fighting one thing, and they're coming together to fight against Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is going to beat them, okay? But watch this. This is so cool. He is Lord of lords, Kings of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. And with him. We're going to get that in chapter 19. That sure looks like a rapture. Again, we see it. Then verse 15, then angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and language. The beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to give the beast their power to rule until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. And of course, we think that's Rome. But we see this, and we see that the beast And these 10 kings turn against the woman and they destroy the woman. Okay? Now, when we see the chosen ones, we believe that's possibly a rapture. And the 10 kings hate the woman. They turn against whatever Babylon is. They turn against her. Isaiah 13, Jeremiah 50 appear to show this. And so that's what we have in verse 17, is we have a woman controlling a beast. The beast has 7 heads, 10 horns. They turn against the woman and destroy the woman. Okay? Now, after this, chapter 18, let's go to chapter 18. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice, he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a home for demons." You see how we see the spiritual sense come into play here? We see she's become a home for demons, a haunt for every evil spirit, a haunt for every unclean and detestable bird. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The king of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries. Then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues, for her sins are piled up to heaven." It's a spiritual thing. Even though there's some physical attributes. And God is saying enough is enough. Her sins have raised up to him. And he's saying, "Come out of her, my people. Stay away from her. Her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Get back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Mix her a double portion of her own cup. Give her as much torture." This is what's going to happen to Babylon. This is what's going to happen to wherever that is. Whether it's the United States, Babylon, or Rome, or some other thing. It is a false religion that rides this beast. Give her as much torture and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, "I sit as a queen. I am not a widow." And you know what? Let me tell you what. That is making fun of God. God says that she is a widow, Isaiah 47:8. And we're going to get into this a little bit more. "And I will never mourn. Therefore, one day her plagues will overtake her, death and mourning and famine. She will be consumed by a fire, for mighty is the Lord." Mighty is the Lord who judges her. "When the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her and shared her luxury see the smoke of her burning, they will weep over her." They will mourn and weep over her. This thing that the earth has for so long looked towards, rather than God. What would happen today if the whole world turned to God? It'd be an awesome thing. But I don't believe it's possible. It says they were terrified, verse 10, at her torment, and they will stand far off and cry, "Woe, woe, O great city of Babylon, city of power. In 1 hour your doom has come." This is talking about a physical. We go from spiritual to physical here. Okay? And when I see the people being called out from her, I think of Genesis chapter 18, the story of Lot, where he was called out. And they got Lot out before the judgment. They're of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they call the people out of Babylon. And you know, people are called out of Babylon and in the scripture. And would you like to guess how many times they're called out of Babylon in the scripture? 7 times, of course, a complete number. Okay? You know, I am a queen and no widow. I stand on my own, and she makes fun of Israel. And there's 3 types of groups of people that look at her and mourn. The kings of the earth, a total fall of the governmental system. The merchants of the earth, the total fall of an economic system that's going to happen that day. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes. They're gone. And the shipmasters of the earth, a total fall of world trade. Every sea captain and all who travel by ship, sailors and all who earn a living from the sea will stand afar off, and they'll see the smoke of the burning. And then we get to Revelation 18, 20, 21. Rejoice over her, O heaven. Rejoice, saints and apostles and prophets. God has judged her for the way she treated you. Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it in the sea and said, with such violence the city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again. And so we see the destruction of Babylon now happening right as this is happening. Over here, Battle of Armageddon's going. Over here, the Babylon is being destroyed. She rides the beast is turning on her and destroying her. This is happening. And up here, we're seeing Jesus Christ come down. That's going to be in the next chapter, chapter 19. And we'll do that next week. We're going to do chapter 19 and 20. So this is a good one. I suggest you read Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7, which kind of puts all this together with all the 10 horns and 7 heads and all that. I know that can be confusing. Normally when I teach this, I take one whole session on all the heads and stuff so that we explain them, and I try to make them simple, and hopefully I made them clear, but I would read those 2 chapters. Thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you soon, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.